So if you're booking your vacations and staycations, how about a good book to enjoy by the pool or on the beach or wherever you're reading? Here with some great summer reads, Miriam Santz, the CEO of Powell's Books. And I gotta tell you, I love reading, but there's so much to do in the summertime, like hang out at the beach. I get ADD really quick. What kind of advice could you give a person like myself that doesn't really have the time to read?
Don't read.
Don't do
it.
Don't do it. It's so hard.
It's supposed to be relaxing. It's supposed to be fun. If it's not relaxing and fun for you, don't do it.
I get like 2 chapters in and I get really into it, and then I'm like, the phone rang, or I got to check my Facebook or my Instagram.
Well, you know, reading's not for everybody, and it's not a should or a have to. It's a I want to. It's a joyful event, and if it's not, don't do it.
Well, for those that do, and there's a lot of people that like to read, what do you recommend this summer?
Well, this was my favorite book of the year, and it came out in paperback recently. It's called Homegoing by, as you can see, Gayasi, and I hope I said that name correctly. I probably didn't, but it takes the story of 2 sisters. It's 1775 in Ghana, and one of them gets abducted and transported to the United States as a slave. The other one marries an English colonist of Ghana, and it follows the families through 8 generations. The chapters go back and forth between the 2 experiences, and it's an amazing story of love and resilience. And it may sound a little grim. It is a little grim. There's nothing wonderful or pleasant about slavery and about the colonization of Africa.
See? Now I don't need...
It is an uplifting, inspiring story.
Now I don't need to read the book because you just told me all about it. You ruined it for us.
You got the language of this book is
beautiful. What
are
the books we have here?
Well, if this is probably my favorite poolside reading, it's called Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. And Anthony Horowitz... It's a thriller. It's actually 2 murder mysteries. The first one takes place in 1955, and it's a manuscript that an editor is reading. And as she's reading the manuscript, she realizes that the last 2 chapters are missing. And guess what? The author has mysteriously fallen off a balcony, and she now believes it's a murder. So you have 2 murder mysteries.
Can you get
and it would make a great audio book, and you can go to powells.com. We are partners with Libro FM, and you can download this book via powells.com. So either read it or hear it or whenever
I would like to
want
listen to that in the car.
It's fun. It's a really fun book.
Brian Doyle, Mink. And you said this is a local author, right?
Yes, Brian Doyle died just about a month ago. He was a 60-year-old, probably one of the greatest Oregon authors. If you had the top 10 Oregon authors, Brian would certainly be in, 2nd or 3rd place, maybe even 1st. I love this book. This is my favorite book that he wrote, and it's about a small town on the Oregon coast, and it explains the town through the lives of these intersecting characters, and it's magic realism on the Oregon coast. It is beautiful language, and if you are into a literary read and you want to know more about what life on the Oregon coast is like, please pick up Brian Doyle and be enchanted.
And being new to Oregon and being new to Portland, that's something I should be reading.
Well, when I first came to Oregon in the early 1970s, the book you were supposed to read in order to truly be an Oregonian was Sometimes a Great Notion by Ken Kesey. And I still recommend that to folks. But yes, this would be number 2.
I'll be writing that down.
Okay.
Maybe I will be reading this summer.
Nah, I doubt it.
You don't see it.
If you don't like to read, I don't see you changing on the. But this book.
You're pretty convincing, though. Maybe you could read to me.
No.
That's not going to happen either.
That's not in my job description. Not in my job description. So here we have, if you've read All the Light You Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, and most people in America have read that book, but if you have, this is the book you're supposed to read next, as far as I'm concerned. It also takes place during World War II.
Well, I like that period piece.
1939 to 1942. And what's interesting about this book, several things. One is, that's when we were losing the war. So this is a story that is about people who, as far as they know, they're losing the war. They are desperately trying to figure out how to live their lives and prosper and do things when they're losing the war. And it is written by Chris Cleave, who wrote this book, Little Bee, which is also a wonderful novel. It's based on love letters between his grandparents. So the germ of this story came from his family's history of how his grandparents fell in love. And it is a wonderful, it tells you a lot about World War II that I never knew.
You know what I love about you? You've read each one of these books.
I wouldn't bring a book if I hadn't read it.
And on that note, we got to take a break. But thank you so much for coming in. You got to come back for some fall reading. How about that?
I'll do it.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Really appreciate that. We'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere.